What's up, family? A word a day. Today is February 5th, 2018. I looked at the clock, it's 1:18, 2020. And so today's word of the day is
Somatosensory.
Somatosensory. Somatosensory. This is a word that prior to a couple days ago I never heard before. And so I was trying to pronounce it earlier when I was doing my self-care journey video for the day, and I didn't know how to pronounce the word. So once again, this is
Somatosensory.
Somatosensory. Somatosensory. Antoine Grant, what's up, brother? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope all is well. Somatosensories. Let's talk about it for a second, right? What is somatosensory function? Somatosensory function is the ability to interpret bodily sensation. Sensation takes a number of forms, including touch, pressure, vibration, temperature, itch, tickle, and pain. So it's the ability to interpret it. And the reason why this came up, hey Shatiri, thanks for hanging out. Long time, how are you? The reason why it came up is because as I was doing my self-care video for the day, if you haven't seen it, just go back and watch the video before this. It's called Interoception and Meditation. I think you'll enjoy it. I really want your feedback, so if you get a chance, check that out here on Facebook. And if you're watching this afterwards, it'll be on YouTube, Aaron Hill TV. And so interoception is about that sense, that ability to not just have feelings and experiences, but be able to know what they are, to be able to recognize them and separate yourself from those experiences. It's an acute level, it's an acute sense and a nuanced sense of self-awareness. That's the best way to put it, right? So that's how this came up. Somatosensory. So let's talk about what the somatosensory system is. And this is from Wikipedia, and I put it on my page if you want to read it yourself. The somatosensory system is a part of the sensory nervous system. It is a complex system of sensory neurons and neural pathways, one of my favorite words, that responds to changes at the surface or inside the body. The axons of sensory neurons connect with or respond to various receptor cells. These sensory receptor cells are activated by different stimuli, such as heat, giving a functional name to the responding sensory neuron, such as a thermoreceptor, which carries information about temperature changes. Okay, that's Wikipedia. I'm gonna go to some other definitions that have a bit more layman terms and approach. What are examples of somatosensory senses? Somatosensation is the group of sensory modalities that are associated with touch. I don't know this word. Proprioception. Never heard that. That might be the word of the day for tomorrow. And what we just learned about, interoception. These modalities include pressure, vibration, light, touch, tickle, itch, temperature, pain, proprioception, I think that's how you pronounce it, and kinesthesia. Let's see, the next question is, what is the difference between sensory and somatosensory? Hey, Yusuf. Shataria says, I am doing well, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much. I am, Shataria, especially because what we're talking about today, I'm developing interoception at another level. So what is the difference between sensory and somatosensory? Broadly speaking, sensory selection refers to the activation of either of the 5 traditional senses: sight, vision, hearing, taste, smell, or touch, while the somatosensory system is often referred to as extrasensory. I actually want to see a little bit more about that. Why is somatosensory important? Because Aaron Hill says so. No, I'm just kidding. The somatosensory cortex is an important part of the cerebral cortex in the brain that processes sensory information from the body. Neurons from different parts of the body that receive environmental stimuli all send their information to the somatosensory cortex. This is all about awareness, people. This is literally about self-awareness and body awareness to the next level. And even though I'm like in the midst of studying it, while I'm studying it, I'm realizing why it's so important to study this stuff. And how, like, this is what school needs to, why isn't school talking, why don't we have a meditation class in school? Yeah, this is making me think about some things, right? So I already feel like school is up as it is, because it's not all the way up to par as far as our present day understandings, our present day knowledge of ourselves and how we learn, how we operate, our present day technology. We should have a social media class in school. Like, let's I'm not gonna go too far off on a tangent here, but what's one class we could wipe out to replace for meditation and mindfulness class? Jan, what is one class that we can do away with school, like what, a traditional class that we've had forever, or a subject, or a part of a subject that we could do away with to replace with a class and classes that's more vital to the world that we live in and more relevant? Like, how can we get a mindfulness and meditation class? What would that replace as far as school? What would social media class replace, right? And I'm saying that because we're dealing with psychology here. We're dealing with, like, social studies, like social media is just as important as social studies, because social media is the new social studies. God damn it, I think I'm gonna say that again. Social media is the new social study. And what I mean by that is, and definitely allow me this for a few seconds, because I think it's so relevant. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and this is a conversation I've been having a lot about, which is that social media has introduced us to a new way of communication. It is still new for us because it's very young in our history of evolution. So what that means is there are pros and cons to everything, especially when you're talking about advancements in evolution or advancements in technology and how our evolution catches up with it. Our brains is wired only for a certain amount of judgment at a time. All of a sudden, when you go from, like I was telling a friend of mine, when you go from, we were talking about a child in school and something they were dealing with, and how some child put something out on social media, and it was really toxic, and it was bad, and it really hurt this person, and they didn't realize, they weren't mindful of how this would affect the person. And I was saying that has twice the effect as it would before on the brain and on the nervous system and everything, because you used to be just judged by a class of people or a school. But now, like, you're judged, that same instance now has the school, because everybody's on social media, plus hundreds and thousands of people outside of that. So it has a deep effect on our brain, and we're learning now, just like the scientists are learning. We're all scientists right now. We're all learning at the same time the effects of this amazing thing on our brains and on our systems. So we need to have social media class in school. Like, yeah, maybe I'll be part of that in some way, just building it through my own platform and then trying to offer it to schools. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And I'll try to get into schools as a person who's coming in as a public figure to talk about these things in assemblies and for social studies classes and these kind of things. Anyway, okay. So, sorry to go off on a tangent, but like, this is so important to me. So, somatosensory is very important for these reasons, because it's way deeper than just your sensory perception. This is about self-awareness on a whole other level. What happens if the somatosensory cortex is damaged? This can also happen as a result of increased use of a body part. Damage to it results in decreased sensory thresholds and inability to discriminate the properties of tactile stimuli or to identify objects. By touch, the secondary somatosensory cortex is in the lower parietal lobe. Okay, and to round out this experience, let's see what else we got. Okay, let me go to, I wanted to finish this from earlier. Thanks, Yusef. Yusef says, yes, meditation in schools. Bruh, let me tell you something. This is what I'm saying, my beautiful elder brother. This is what I'm saying, right? People holler and scream about prayer in schools. And while I have all respect for people who that's the approach to their life when it comes to this kind of awareness, to be absolutely honest, meditation in schools is way more important and vital than prayer in schools. First of all, for the obvious, which is that you respect everyone's belief or lack thereof. So instead of this pompous and arrogant idea that like the way that we think about this thing is the way that everybody should, so they're trying to take prayer out of schools because they know it's the best thing. No, they're not. They're not taking it out because it's some grand demonic plan against prayer and Christianity and other faiths. Hell no, it's not that. That's ridiculous. And honestly, that's an immature mindset for any of us that think that. It's not that. What it really is separation of church and state. Like you cannot have the concept of prayer in schools because it immediately violates other people's rights or other people's views or other people's traditions or their practices. So you can do, though, meditation and you can do mindfulness because that is a very secular art form that allows everybody to do it in their own way. So a person who prays can incorporate prayer into their meditation. But the meditation piece is very simple and it is religious-less. It is about breathing. It is about being mindful, being present. You know, it's about those kind of things. And if we want children to be better and behave better, meditation in schools. Period. Make that the new homeroom class. Like, make the new homeroom meditation. Like, real talk. The rest of the school day will go better if homeroom is meditation. Anyway, I'm okay. So here's the last thing, and then I'm out of here. Okay, so I was talking about what is the difference between sensory. It says sensory selection and somatosensory. The somatosensory system is part of the sensory system concerned with the conscious perception of touch, pressure, pain, temperature, position, movement, and vibration, which arise from the muscles, joints, skin, and fascia. The somatosensory system relays sensations detected in the periphery organs and conveys them via pathways through the spinal cord, brainstem, and thalamic relay nuclei to the sensory cortex in the parietal lobe. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'll come back. Parietal lobe. Broadly speaking, sensory selection refers to the activation of either of the 5 traditional senses of sight, vision, hearing, taste, smell, or touch, while the somatosensory system is often referred to as extrasensory. So this allows us to keep our senses in check. So we should check it out. We should study it. We should focus on it daily. And that is the short story long of A Word a Day. So Yusef says, I can appreciate you saying you're going to contribute to it in some way yourself. Thank you, Yusef. I am. So here's the thing, and this is what I realize about my daily offerings. This is why it's so important that I do this, because this is actually the new version of that. When I go to a school, like how I've been and I've taught, for music and other subjects, then what happens is that when you have a keynote speech or when you have the chance to do an assembly or something like that. To me, unlike how it used to be back in the day, where you have someone like myself come, present, and that would be the beginning and the end, now I look at it as the entry point. I look at it as the opening point for most people. I look at it, not for most people, for the experience. So now what I'm doing is that by the time I get in schools and talk about this kind of stuff, the very next thing that I can say is, by the way, you can, I have a bunch of videos of this kind of stuff on Facebook and on YouTube. And so, kids, the best thing you can do is just jump on there and hear me talk about it to no end to all my friends like Yusef and Antoine and everybody else who's joining me. And that's what's happening. So that's why it's so important, because this is school now, and then you take this, you compile a huge library of materials, because all the kids that's where they are. Like, we need to have, first of all, every kid's use of their phone should be encouraged in school, because now the activity should be based around using your phone to look things up or to do your assignments. It should be, because it's more efficient. Now, in many ways, they don't have to have notebooks and for certain things. You know, it still has a place, but now they can store a lot of their turn a lot of their assignments. Like, if I was a teacher, like, literally my kids would be turning in their assignments on Facebook, in the group. So, you know, I'm having just a premonition or revelation about, like, what's wrong with our current school system is and how we should be thinking about it. So, whole different topic, whole different day. I'll do a whole different thing on there. Yusef says homeroom. Hot dang. Antoine says homeroom would be a great idea. Man, I really agree. I mean, think about it. In homeroom class, if we had the ability to prepare our minds for the day, and it was a practice that was just about, like, think about this. Last thing, and then I'm out of here. We all know, because of how stressful life can be and how many things are going on, that as a millennial, as a young person, you have way more on your mind on a day-to-day basis than you did, Yusef, or I did, or you did, Antoine, or you did, Jan. Like, it's a whole different time period. So there's way more going on. There's way more processing. You know, there's way more to account for, even as you partake in the type of relationships and communication that you do on a daily basis, which is across the mediums, across the borders of countries and everything. So there's a lot more that's going on in your head. Not to mention the normal things in life, which is if you come from a broken family or a broken home, or your mom is strung out, or you're taking care of yourself, or you're overwhelmed by all your other activities or whatever. Like, you get to school and you may bring all your problems to school. So therefore, what's affecting you a lot of times is not just that you're bad. You're dealing with a lot of shit. And you don't have maybe the therapeutic things in place at home to even be able to deal with those or decompress. So if school is about an educational environment as well as an environment for preparing human beings to learn and to thrive and to be prosperous, then we should have classes, we should have practices that devote to decompressing, de-stressing, that devote to being mindful, that devote to not bringing all your stuff to your experience, that devote themselves to interoception and being more aware of what you may be feeling versus the task at hand. And if you start that in homeroom, my homeroom will be like, welcome to the class. So everybody just take a deep breath. I would have music on, and the whole class would just be about, like, what are you dealing with, you know, and let's listen, let's learn. By the time you go to the next class, now you're ready to apply yourself. So I'll end it on that tip, because I will continue to go on and on about this, because I'm realizing deeply it's a passion for me. And so, therefore, I will do my part here, and I'll do my part in the school system as I continue to build on that and see how that looks. So, thank y'all for joining me for this long-ass word of the day today. The short story long version of it. And, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be going live later tonight. I'll be with Clarence Ward and That Feel Good. If you're around and you're in the DMV area, come join us at Montego Bar on Charles Street. Great music, 8 to 12. I don't think that there's a cover. Thursday, join me in DC at JoJo's, 1518 U Street, with the same group, That Feel Good, from 7:30 to 11. It's free. It's great music, great food. And what else is coming up? Oh yeah, so drum roll. I don't have a drum roll, but this is a exclusive. This is an Aaron Hill exclusive, or Aaron Hill breaking news, or whatever. So I just decided, and I just contacted the venue, just solidified it, that I'm gonna do a pop-up Valentine's solo piano show next Tuesday. And it's going to be the Simply Love Valentine's Show. And Simply Love is a CD that I released back in 2011, I want to say. Simply Love. It's a great love project. I think you would enjoy it if you haven't heard it already. If you want to check it out, AaronHillTV.com is right there. You can check it out. You can check it out on my YouTube channel, Aaron Hill TV. But I'm doing a pop-up show. And even though it's last minute, I know it's going to be great. I know it's going to be fun. So next Tuesday, I'll be at Ondi Music, which is 409 North Charles Street. And I'm going to say the show is going to be 7:30. And I'm looking up in the sky because it's that soon. I just sent the email. I'm trying to actually figure out all the details. But I want to say 7:30. Next Tuesday, 409 North Charles Street. Join me for a very intimate Simply Love Valentine experience. And that's about it for today. If you enjoy this content that I do, please look out for that info in the comments or description section of this video, depending on where you're watching this. And that's how you can help to support me to keep making videos like this and all the other stuff that you see me do on a daily basis. So I think that's about it. So let me know what you thought. And as always, peace and be well.